Hey guys, Yoon here with Iced, and yeah, welcome to the first episode of Wen Games. It's a new talk show brought to you by Magic Eden and Eden Games, where we're gonna have project founders, influencers, and gamers from not just Web3 but the Web2 world too, to talk about anything and everything gaming and NFT related. So for our first episode, I was able to grab quite a banger of a guest, someone you'll be very familiar with if you're in the Solana NFT space. We have IcedKnife. Ice, give us a short intro.
What's up, Ian? How you doing, bro? I appreciate you having me on. I guess a short intro about myself. I got into crypto in late 2017. Dabbled in it a little bit, um, and then got into the NFT game. I guess summer of 2021, right before Solana NFTs started to be a thing. Um, and right now I trade full crypto full time.
Yo, we all know about your Twitter game and your NFT trading game, but a lot of people don't know about your gaming background. Can you give us a little insight?
Yeah, sure. So I've always been a really big gamer ever since I was like a kid. I used to play like Nintendo and GameCube and all the way up to the Wii and Xbox, PS3, PS2, all that stuff, right? So I was always, even when I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, I'd love playing games. Um, and I started to create content when I was like 11, 12 years old. I started to create some YouTube content because that's when I first got into Call of Duty. And I saw a lot of success there. I streamed a little bit on Twitch, not too often, but my main focus was like, YouTube and growing my audience there. I found a lot of success there. I joined a few gaming organizations um, along the way, made a lot of great connections, met a lot of great people. Um, and in I think in 2017, uh, I went to university. I got my degree in finance. Um, so it's been I kind of put all that on hold, right? So I kind of just came back with my Twitter and kind of just transformed it into, a crypto Twitter, uh, Twitter. So it's, I thought the transition was pretty synergistic though, pretty fluid, and my audience was receptive to it. So I think it's going well.
That's amazing. I would love to hear more about how your audience reacted to you going full crypto and full NFTs. Because for me, being from the League of Legends scene and also the esports scene, my audience did not like me doing NFT, did not like me doing crypto. Not a lot of my close friends spoke out, but a lot of people accused me of scamming people just by being involved with NFTs. And also in the League of Legends scene, a huge sponsor is FTX. They're sponsoring both LCS and TSM. And yeah, there's been a lot of people vocal about disliking of the sponsorship and disliking of NFTs in general. So I'm very curious to hear how your audience was more receptive to it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how to explain this in a way where like imagine explaining CT or like CT culture or memes
Mhm.
to like a normie. Um, because I guess in the Call of Duty community back in the day, we had like a lot of memes, a lot of people getting ratioed, like the same type of shit, petty shit on Twitter that we love to see. So it was a similar vibe in that sense. So I didn't stray away too much from that. Like, like I try to make my tweets lighthearted and funny and relatable. Um, and I think that's what, helped me get there. I don't relentlessly shill projects. Like if you look at my shit, like I barely even really talk about projects, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
It's more so like very general. If I'll get on a spaces, maybe a project or two will be up there. Like Frank always comes up, or um, the other day we had the co-founder of OK Bears. He came up and spoke for a while. So it's never really me like cold shilling projects, and I think that is what separates me from like other influencers who've made that change and are like, hey, check out this NFT, and they do like some type of paid promo or some type of you know strategic partnership or whatever they do. um and it's generally not my vibe. Like I don't just get on Twitter and cold chill you something and be like, hey, you should mint this.
Hmm.
It's more so very general. Sometimes it can be it's more like informational slash education a little bit. Like I started my podcast recently with Legend, and through the first 3 episodes, it's more so talking about what what's happening right now with the whole culture shift with Ethereum versus Solana and OK Bears and obviously the not OK Bears and how they how that was like a whole big ordeal the last few days. So it's more about like current events and what's happening more than like, hey, you should check out this project is very bullish. Like it's a different dynamic, I would say. And obviously there's a bunch of like random tweets that are just non-educational whatsoever and they're just funny,
Hmm.
and relatable. And a lot of people obviously love that.
For sure. A lot of talks about metaverse sex and being a millionaire.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, look, everybody loves a good motivation. I feel like, I don't know, I saw somebody on Twitter call me irresponsible. They're like, you're irresponsible with your Twitter account. You have a huge following and you should be responsible with what you tweet. And while I do agree with you, I don't think tweeting like some motivational posts or positive affirmations is irresponsible of me whatsoever, right? Like I'm
Hmm.
not saying if I say like if you're reading this you're gonna make it, like I feel like that's not irresponsible whatsoever. It's just a motivation post if anything.
Got it.
um you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah.
like it's a good
Uh,
vibes post, it's a motivation post. I'm not cold shilling you any garbage project. um it's just for the Solana good vibes. That's it. Simple as that.
I do think our space has a lot of winners and also a lot of losers, right? And when people lose out on a trade, they want to find people to blame. And influencers are at their fingertips reach thanks to Twitter. You can talk to anyone. And it's
Yeah, they're the punching bags. If a project does well, if it does well, if it succeeds, everybody's like, "Ah," they give the influencer lots and lots of credit. And even if like the influencer, let's say, bought at 5, dumped it at 10, but it went to 20, 30, 40, nobody cares that the influencer dumped because it kept their bags kept going up.
mhm,
But if the influencer dumped and then it actually went down, or even if the influencer didn't dump and it went down, there's going to be a whole riot of people that are upset about it. But nobody's going to have a 100% track record. That's impossible. It's never going to happen. I
mhm,
think 95% of NFTs, if not more, will go to zero at some point in time. Maybe not some NFTs have longer shelf lives than others, right? Every derivative you see, every copycat, project you see might have a short-term pump, but eventually they'll have no longevity whatsoever. And, in a month's time, they'll be pretty much non-existent with no volume. So,
yeah.
and it's pretty much a hot potato of who gets to dump first, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many people trying to make money in this space, and a lot of times influencers are trying to do the same thing. And I'm not saying they're relentlessly pumping and dumping. What I'm saying more so is they're trying to win. And your goal shouldn't be to copy trade influencers because the alpha they have, they're going to share it within themselves or they're going to make the trades. The thing they're posting about publicly are just the things they want to post about, maybe because they really love the project, maybe because they want to pump the project. But at the end of the day, it's their Twitter. Yes, there's some responsibility, but don't copy trade influencers and don't put too much trust into influencers in terms of, oh, wow, this influencer said this project is good. I'm going to follow it through. You should make your own decisions and, yeah, let the people be. There are some relentless shills on Twitter that I have a problem with, but in general, influencers talking about projects, especially when it's just their opinions, I think people should just understand it as that.
Yeah. And I feel like people want to be held at gunpoint, be 100% liable if a project is successful or not. Like that heavily depends on A, the team that's behind the project, and B, the community. I think even more so the community more than anything else.
Hmm.
Um, the quality of holders in your project matters a lot. Um, so to put the blame on an influencer, that's also a pretty generic term. Like what constitutes what an influencer is. Is it a certain amount of followers? It is a certain amount of engagement. High ranks on NFT Inspect. Like what really constitutes it, right? So, um, if somebody could have 2,000 followers, right, or better yet, 100 followers, and you follow his call into something and it goes to the dumpster, are you going to blame him as well? Like, I'm sure he lost money on it as well.
Your Honor, I would like to bring Ice to court. He tweeted about a project I bought at the top and then it dumped.
Me too, bro. Me
Yo,
too.
let's talk about some games and gaming projects in general. What's your thought on NFT and crypto gaming? Because as someone that works at Magic Eden and is a huge part of our games team, I'm actually really bearish in the short term for NFT games, and I can give a longer thought on why, but I would love to hear
I,
your opinion on current NFT games.
I would also agree with you that they're bearish short term. The problem is we need it. A lot of people want to, create the next play to earn game like Axie Infinity. The problem is you have to create like let me ask you a question. Why did you play League of Legends?
Well, I played League of Legends because I was a Dota addict and I got into college and I wanted to play something more casually. I ended up being pro in it, but I played it because it was really fun and enjoyable.
It was fun and enjoyable, right? It
Hmm.
wasn't there was no money at like when you start playing one of those games, if you go buy like GTA, if you go buy Halo, if you go buy Call of Duty and you start playing those games, you play Fortnite, you play Minecraft, whatever, you start playing those games, you play it not because you expect any type of monetary outcome, you play it because you think it's fun,
Hmm.
right? You get on to play with your friends, you get on to socialize a little bit. Uh, you play to have fun in the game at its core
Hmm.
the same way like RuneScape has its own marketplace, and there's I think it's against like Jagex's terms and conditions, but there are places where you can sell your GP for like crypto or real money,
Hmm.
um, and that's like a third party marketplace. But my point is that it has real monetary value. But prior to that, like people were playing the game because they love the game, right? In
Hmm.
general, people love the game in general. So if you don't have a good game that people would play, even if there wasn't a monetary gain behind it, then you don't have a good play to earn game. Like
Yeah.
it's just not gonna happen. It has to be a game first and then a job second.
Hmm. The gameplay part is so important, and that's why I'm bearish in the short term. When we look at the gaming landscape nowadays, all the best games, the AAA titles, are free to play and incredibly social. So the ones that come to mind are League of Legends, Valorant, Fortnite. These games are all free to play, developed by gigantic studios, and they're turning out content on a 2 week cycle, and you have your entire friend group playing them. So when you're trying to draw someone away to play your game, you're not going to have a really big social scene or their friends playing that game. And also, if your gameplay going to match a AAA title, and you also have to pay huge amounts of money comparatively to these free to play games where you need an NFT to play this game. So it's really hard sell right now for the games in the short term. And yeah, I think that's something that really needs to be addressed if you want to see big time crypto games. I think a lot of people will mention Axie Infinity, the kind of success that they've had, and the amount of players that they have and how sticky they are. But like you mentioned, it's a job, not a game. People out there somewhere in the world are making more money playing Axie than they do doing manual labor. So for them, they're not playing Axies because it's incredibly fun. They're playing Axies to earn a living. And it's great that a game is giving them that opportunity, but I think it's really false to say, hey, look at the amount of players we have. Look at how sticky they are. Look at how much playtime they have. Well, yeah, of course, because it's a job to them and it's not for fun. And I think that's something that really needs to be addressed.
Right. And I think, fun is a relative term, right? Like some people might not like the game as much as others. But I think, in terms of popularity, like you could see fun as in like people would watch people stream this. People would watch people play, watch videos of this on YouTube, right?
Hmm.
And that's where you can gauge the popularity of something rather than just the raw, number of people playing it. Beyond that,
Hmm.
you want to see people watching it and want to see, streamers play that game or, let's say a competitive scene
Hmm.
where the viewer has no benefit of watching other than you love the competitiveness and the game itself.
Entertainment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And While I don't think Axie is a terrible game, it's actually incredibly polished, especially the new iteration of Axie. My question is, you take out the play to earn aspect and you compare this game to a Hearthstone. You compare this game to a Magic the Gathering or a team fight tactic. You compare it to other games in its genre, and would it stand out and would it garner the same kind of player base is my big question.
Yeah, I really don't know. I've never played Axie Infinity, so I can't give an honest answer on it. I just know that a lot of people have said, there are people from third world countries and less fortunate countries that grind out that game because they make a greater living doing that than an average salary job in that country.
hmm So, where I'm really bullish on games is I think long term, games will be the game changer for NFTs. And people might laugh at crypto gaming now, but this was also the same when it came to mobile gaming and when it came to free to play games in the past. So you just go back, not even that far, about 10 years ago, free to play games were kind of a joke. They were the games you played on Facebook, they were the pretty much like the bad games. And the good
That's
games
true.
required you to buy a CD, download the game, and then play it, and you expected quality out of I paid $60 for this CD, so this game is going to be good. And League of
Yeah,
Legends came in and changed that. And the model for free to play allowed incredibly low barrier of entry and huge groups of people to just get into the game along with low spec. And mobile also, we used to think mobile games as a joke, but now mobile games are one of the heavily monetized and it's allowing people everywhere to game. Infamously, Blizzard said, "Don't you guys have a phone?" But it is really a key part of the industry. Everyone has phones. Mobile games are much easier to get into. And nowadays, when people's lives are so busy, it's so nice to be able to hop on your phone and get a quick game in versus sit down on your computer, get the boys on Discord, and get a real session going.
yeah. I mean, both definitely have their place. It's almost like those handheld devices, like the 3DS or PSP,
hmm
Game Boy Advance, all that stuff. You could relate it to that a little bit. But you're right. The business model, the structure has definitely changed, right? Like more games are way more open to the idea of their game being free and charging for in-game items rather than, charging a $60 CD and then having to, put out, let's say, map packs or
hmm
um, you
Expansion.
know, yeah, there's like expansion things to the game itself, but now they can just monetize the skins and the customization of characters
hmm
pretty much.
The cosmetics.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. People people like want to flex in the metaverse. That's how it is.
So, why I'm bullish for NFT games are I'm not sure how old you are. I'm pretty sure you're much younger than me. I'm 30. But
Yeah.
for my generation, I've known crypto since about 2015. That's when I really started to get into Bitcoin and Ethereum and started to put some money in, but still wasn't that much into crypto. And in 2020, started hearing about NFTs. 2021, really got into NFTs. Now, for me, that's way later in life, and it's something I'm still getting more familiar with. You look at the generation after me, and maybe even the generation after you, and they're incredibly native to gaming. In Korea, over 97% of Gen Z consider themselves to be gamers. And I'm sure that statistic, while not one for one across the world, the new generation is much more heavily into gaming. And also, they're living a life where they're going to have known crypto and maybe even NFTs for majority of their lives. Now, we think back to our parents, right? The way they handle internet, the way they handle mobile phones, compared to how we handle internet. We grew up with the internet. We have not known a world without internet. So, for the generation that are very, very heavily gamers and that have not known a life without crypto and NFTs, I think they'll be much more ready to embrace the whole crypto NFT gaming. And I do think incredibly good titles in crypto NFT gaming will come out. I really want to see people lean more into what makes NFTs and gaming so special. So the example that I like to use a lot is Tarkov. Tarkov is so exciting because there's something at stake. Whenever you load in, the amount of gear you come in with allows you to have a higher win rate, but it also you're having a lot more things at stake when things go wrong. And NFTs are valuable digital things. I think a model that combines NFTs and uses them intelligently instead of just pasting NFTs onto Web2 games and praying that it works out is going to be a deal breaker, and it's going to change the landscape of gaming. But it's going to take time, and we only really truly need one game like that for people mindset to change about NFT and crypto gaming. But yeah, I'm waiting for a title like that, and we're doing everything we can at Magic Eden to support a game like that.
Yeah, I think we're still a couple years away. Maybe even like more, could be somewhere between 2 and 5 years away from like one of those, you know, stellar AAA play to earn games.
Hmm.
Um, based on obviously crypto, and I think it'll happen on Solana.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, I mean, just the microtransactions themselves and the ability to do that. Um, and plus, nobody wants to go through a layer two on Ethereum, so it's I think it's the only feasible option as long as TPS is under control.
Hmm.
So I think we're still a few years away from that. I don't think, in the short term there are a lot of, there are a lot of games. We don't necessarily need a AAA game. I'm just saying, like, on a, a grand scale, like people actually playing this competitively and people streaming this on Twitch, um and having it go mainstream is what I'm saying.
Hmm.
It does not mean like there aren't going to be games that come across that are just like pixelated games, fun little, like almost like mini clip type games.
Hmm.
Um, and that's all good and fine. I love those types of games. I love Brick Breaker. I love Tetris. Like, I love those
Hmm.
simple games too. Like, I'll sit there and play that for a long time too, especially like in car rides or if I'm on a plane. Like, I do that stuff all the time. So it's not to say like we won't have games like that, because I think we definitely will. But in terms of like a triple A, like Call of Duty, like League of Legends, CS:GO type of game, I think we're 2 to 5 years away from that.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit more bullish on the timeline, and I also think it's hard to really truly predict the future. But
Of course,
from
I,
inter-
I I'm just saying that because I
Mhm.
just think that I made that up.
Yeah. But from interacting with some of the teams in the space, I'm sure you've met some of them too. SkateX, Everseed, Azra Games, Mecha Fight Club. These teams are so incredibly talented. Everseed is full of Riot Game developers, Blizzard developers, and they've been able to raise capital and go out and create a game that they wanted to create. Same thing with SkateX, veteran from EA. Likewise with Azra, incredible Web2 experience. So we're not getting game devs that are like straight out of college that don't have industry experience. We're in a space that's extremely capital rich, where industry veterans are leaving Web 2 to fully embrace Web 3 and create amazing games. I understand how hard it is to make a game, and I also understand even if you get a game to completion, it's incredibly hard to develop a player base around it, have a sticky loop, and really get a critical mass going and change the world. But the amount of talented teams that I've been talking to and the amount of capital there's in this space makes me really bullish that we're gonna see a paradigm changing game sooner than later, and it's gonna be unexpected, and people are not gonna be ready, but I really think it's going to happen really soon. Because when you look at these big Web2 companies, Riot Games, Blizzard, it's really hard for them to be agile and embrace NFTs. They have quarterly earnings report. They have fan bases that might really hate NFTs. They can't go all in. And even if they work on NFTs, they're going to do it in a very, very careful way where these small indie studios led by AAA devs with experience and capital can be nimble and can really take big bets and fully embrace what it means to be Web3 and create a game that is playing in that ethos.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point you bring up. Um, for sure. Yeah.
Yo, so let's talk about some of the gaming projects we have in the Solana ecosystem. And there's one that recently made an announcement about being able to check out their world, Aurora. And since you've been here from the very beginning, you must be really familiar with the project. So yeah, I kind of want to grab your take.
I'm familiar with the project. I tried to mint it. It was like sold out in like a second.
Hmm.
Um, and then obviously on their secondary market, it went like straight to 50 sold from like a one soul mint. and
Mm,
this was, I think, back in August or late August or early September, I think.
mhm,
Um, so it was really, really early on. But I don't keep up with the project itself because I don't own any Auroris. I just know, like, they've been around and in development for a long, long time, and obviously their secondary volume, shows that their presence in the space as well. So I shouldn't I don't think I'm the right person to speak too much on Aurori. I just knew of them, since their inception.
mhm.
Um, but yeah.
What are some games that you do know of in the Solana space and projects that have already minted that you're bullish about?
Um, right now, short term, it's really hard. Like I'll get a couple projects that approach me, and I'll get on call with them. And they'll pretty much like explain their entire game plan, their white paper, their roadmap, their team, what they're trying to execute on. And sometimes they'll have great aspirations, right? Their goals are just in line. I think they're really good.
Mhm.
The problem is sometimes when you mint something, you know the NFT culture and community is very, very short-sighted.
Yes.
They will not hold your NFT for a week or two, let alone 6 months to wait for you to develop a game. you
Especially
know
in
they're-
Solana, we have instant liquidity.
exactly. So it's not that I wouldn't suggest or advocate for a team to be like, okay, go build your game for 6 months or go build your game for 1 year. I'm happy to see that happen. The problem is your floor and secondary volume and your community like it's going to be really hard to convince them to hold your NFT. You have to have a lot of different incentives, you know constantly put out updates, um maybe put out like some type of beta version or alpha version.
Mhm.
Like you have to prove to them that you're building something every step of the way. Otherwise, they'll lose faith and lose confidence in your ability to deliver. Because after all, if you're not a docs project, and if you're not somebody who has a resume who has delivered on this type of stuff, then there's no reason for people to hold your project for that amount of time without any other incentives. So although like I would love to see the game in 6 months, a year, the problem is people are just gonna flip your project and move on to the next.
Yes. I mean, you described the theme perfectly. Incredibly impatient traders that are operating on a very short
Right.
cycle. And that is very different to a product development cycle of a game. You take years, you reiterate, you test internally, and you honestly don't share that much until you are ready to share. But you look at
Right.
what projects are doing nowadays to succeed, they build huge community, constant communication, and it's really creating a lot of friction for these gaming projects, which come into the space with their Web2 knowledge, and they have a very hard time navigating the Web3 space and also the NFT space. And they're very frustrated because they look at some of the projects that sell out and how much they're able to raise. And these are non gaming projects, and they're like, well, all they have is art and
And they
community.
barely have a roadmap.
Yeah.
But the thing is NFTs are a culture driven market, and you have to understand that at its core.
Hmm.
Some things are not going to make sense here. I can't justify why certain projects are valued where they are, and maybe they go even higher, right? That's the
Hmm.
thing. So it's based on more than anything, the community and culture.
Yeah.
So it can be frustrating to other project owners where like, well, I've developed X, Y, and Z. I have a resume in X, Y, and Z. I'm a developer at Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, like Amazon, whatever, right? Like
Hmm.
you could have this amazing resume and people are still doubting your skills, although like I'm sure you will deliver on it. The problem is you have, some meme project that minted is at a 20 soul floor and yours is barely cracking one soul, and it can be very, very frustrating and demotivating, um, which sometimes sucks. I mean, the market is what the market is. I don't know how else to say it.
Hmm.
um, but yeah,
Yeah, it's an incredibly speculation driven market, and
for
games are
sure.
very clear on what they're delivering. Give us a few months or give us a year, and we're going to have this product, and you're an early supporter, and you're going to be able to play it. Where other people are building castle in the sky, and it's a lot more fun and a lot more exciting to speculate about the castle in the sky, about where this brand is going, to spam a catchy phrase, to be in a DGen Discord with someone talking about the next project to ape into.
Catchy phrase. That's
Yeah.
funny.
But that is the reality of things, right? Where there
It is.
is a
No, it,
culture, there's speculation, and that is the main driving force of the market. And then there's utility, and then there's games, which are very definite and very significant value adds, but it's not what the market likes, unfortunately.
yeah, it's not your traditional market. If you don't understand the NFT culture, you're gonna get burned in this market.
Mm. So, do you have any advice for these gaming devs coming into the space that wants to do a project that are incredibly ready from a Web2 perspective and from game development perspective, but are a little bit afraid of the unknown and have no idea how to navigate the space?
Um, to be honest with you, I would more so focus on PFP based projects, even if your main goal is to develop a game. Just because a lot of people, it's a PFP dominated, um, you know, uh, what's the word, space.
Hmm.
So everybody loves their PFPs, and they just tend to do better. From my experience, I think they just tend to do better. So I would, if you can somehow mesh them into one and create a PFP that's memeable, that fits the NFT culture. Maybe you have a catchy catchphrase, but also on the other side, you have a team that is secretly like in the works and delivering that type of stuff. And try not to announce anything that sounds kind of boring or is hard to understand, because you want people to be like caught off guard when you do drop like a complete banger on them or
Hmm.
whatever the announcement is. Um, so sometimes even having like a roadmap or the plans in sight. Like I know D Gods just dropped their updated roadmap, and it was just a pretty much a picture, like
Hmm.
almost like a carnival or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And there was no words written on them. And Frank was like, "Yeah, as time goes on, we're gonna reveal like what we're doing, like after pretty much after it's executed."
Hmm.
So all of it has a meaning, but nobody knows what the meaning is until it happens, which is also a pretty unique way. And sometimes like promising these type of things and not giving a necessary timeline on it. Like you can promise it, but people are going to lose faith, after 2 weeks, a month, even less than that, really, in the space. So I would say like understand the culture. If you can't beat it, you have to join it, right? So I would say lean more towards a PFP, um, if it, obviously if it fits the criteria. And yeah, I guess just know the culture and give into the culture and hire people who are always going to engage in the community. And then obviously on the other side, you're going to have that game development that you're going to have.
Yeah, I think that's actually great advice, and it's actually the same advice I've been giving to teams. Have a Web3 team. It's very cheap compared to the amount that you can raise to have someone that is full-time marketing, full-time community manager that has experience in the scene and run the side part of your project where it might even look like the main part, the main profile picture mint, creating the brand, running the community. That part is very, very low resource in terms of the amount of capital that can be raised, and have your main team just work on developing the game, because game devs are not great at navigating this space, and having someone fully dedicated that has the knowledge, that knows the space very well, just running that side of the project is going to kill it, especially when you have the game team just doing their thing and also giving you resource when it comes to engineering, when it comes to working with agencies for branding, creating assets. I think that's the winning formula for these bigger teams coming in. Just having someone that's native to Web3 and NFTs, just running their Web3 and NFT department.
For sure, for sure. I think that's great advice, for sure.
Yo, we're just above 30 minutes. I want to grab your thoughts on any topic that you want to talk about before we close this out.
Any topic that I want to talk about. I will say that I do appreciate the Magic Eden's involvement on Twitter, like, and their involvement on CT in general.
Hmm.
Like, the obvious, intern, whoever's running the Twitter is doing a great job, and obviously whoever's I think Tiff. occasionally comes on spaces
Mhm.
and interacts with the community. So there isn't really there hasn't been a marketplace like this that is so in tune with the culture and what's going on, like the relevant current events and what's going on. So it's really cool to see that and have that intertwined.
Yeah. I'll drop some alpha. So Tiff is very pretty and very smart, who is our head of marketing. So she's not always running the Twitter. So if you're flirting with the Magic Eden Twitter, more often than not, it's not gonna be Tiff. And
Yeah, I know that. I know that. She's the one speaking on spaces.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
also speaking on our very community driven and being heavily involved, we hire very heavily from the community. I had my own NFT project, and so did many people on our team. We know how different and how unique this space is and how much of a grind it can be. So when we get people that aren't really into NFTs, we've seen a huge bounce rate and honestly, not great culture fit. So we truly embrace hiring people that know what they're talking about and genuinely love the space. And yeah, I think our marketing team is great. The two guys running Twitter, I think they're hilarious and they just really get it. And when I look at other marketplaces and what they do with their Twitter, they honestly don't get it. They don't understand the culture, they don't understand the memes, and they just don't know how to have fun. And I think it's okay to not be so professional as a brand. You look at Duolingo on TikTok, I think they're the most successful brand TikTok, and you look at all these esport teams on Twitter and how playful they are and how personable they feel. I really wanted our Twitter to have that kind of feel and be really intertwined with the community. And Tiff, she's so smart, man. She understood that, yo, I'm from a traditional background. I don't know the social stuff as well as some 20-year-old that's going to be DJing 24/7. I'm going to have to teach him how to be professional. I'm going to have to teach him how to write, but I'm gonna trust him and I'm gonna let him run our Twitter because he's gonna be better than me at it. And I think it takes a lot of maturity and a lot of um, just knowing where you are and being able to ego check yourself for someone like Tiff to hire people and let them really own Twitter. So yes, it is our Twitter interns doing an amazing job, but I also want to give credit to Tiff because she's the one making all the magic happen.
For sure. That's awesome.
All right. Well, that's it for the first episode of Wen Games. Thank you so much for being our first guest, Ice. It was very short notice, and yeah, always appreciate your tweets and appreciate you hanging out with me today.
Nah, for sure. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, that's the end of the episode. Later, guys.